Recent developments in understanding our species and how we developed have suggested around 117 billion people have lived at some stage or another on this planet. This, therefore, means that about 109 billion people, give or take, have died. That's an enormous number, but when you spread it throughout humanity, 160,000 to 300,000 years, depending on how detailed you want to get, it evens to a relatively average death rate that has grown rapidly in the last few years. Despite our modern advances in medicine, more humans will die this year than 5,000 years ago, simply because our numbers have exploded. With roughly 8 billion people now on the planet, somewhere between 60 and 65 million will die in 2024, approximately the same as last year. Now, you might think that with various ongoing wars worldwide that figure might climb higher, but war doesn't even make it into the top 10. Quick side note, in case you're wondering, ischemic heart disease, strokes, and lower respiratory infections are the three biggest killers of human beings. World War I and World War II killed a combined 110 to 130 million people, making the 20th century one of the most deadly in history, while the 14th century saw 45 million people die due to the Black Death and natural disasters. If we want to zoom in even further, 536 AD was a terrifying 365 days to be alive thanks to the volcanic winter that settled over the planet after at least 3 simultaneous volcanic eruptions of uncertain origin. It's impossible to say how many died in 536 AD, but with a famine lasting more than a year, it's fair to say that a sizable chunk of humanity disappeared. Between 1918 and 1919, an estimated 50 million people perished as the Spanish flu surged around the world, making it one of the worst years in human history. But if we want to peer even closer into the human story, what have been the deadliest days for Homo sapiens? Was it the first day of the Battle of the Somme on the 1st of July 1916 when nearly 30,000 men died? Not even close. Maybe the bombing of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945 that killed 70,000. What about the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami that killed 230,000 people? Well, you're still not quite there. For humanity's deadliest day, we must go back to the 16th century and the northwestern Chinese province of Shaanxi. The mixture of extreme poverty and deadly natural disasters has meant China has long laid claim to many of the most catastrophic events in human history. The 1931 flooding around China killed a massive 4 million, while the Yellow River flood of 1887 killed nearly 1 million people, and the resulting pandemic killed a further million. The 1975 Banquao Dam failure and torrential rain may have resulted in as many as 240,000 deaths. And if we want to talk about human-caused misery, Mao's Great Leap Forward left as many as 45 million people dead. If you look at the worldwide list of natural disasters, China appears more than any other country by some distance. China's susceptibility to numerous natural disasters can be attributed to its vast and diverse geographical landscape, coupled with its dense population and rapid urbanization. Spanning over 9.6 million square kilometers, or around 3.7 million square miles, China's terrain includes expansive coastlines, extensive river systems, mountainous regions, and plateaus, each bringing unique disaster risks. One of the primary reasons for the prevalence of natural disasters in China is its geographical positioning. China is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire and is prone to seismic activity. The collision of tectonic plates, particularly the Indian-Australian plate with the Eurasian plate, results in frequent earthquakes, some of which have been devastating, like the 2008 Sichuan earthquake. Flooding's another major issue, mainly due to China's extensive river systems, including the Yangtze and Yellow River. While central to China's agriculture and economy, these rivers are prone to flooding. This is exacerbated by seasonal monsoons and typhoons. Typhoons and tropical storms affecting the coastal regions, especially in the southeast, are frequent due to China's extensive Pacific coastline. These storms bring heavy rains, strong winds, flooding, and landslides. China's vast landmass also experiences extreme weather conditions, including droughts in the northern regions and harsh winters in the northeast, leading to natural disasters like famines and cold waves. Rapid urbanization and population growth exacerbate the impact of these natural disasters. Urban sprawl in vulnerable areas, often with inadequate infrastructure to withstand such disasters, leads to more significant loss of life and property. Climate change further intensifies these natural phenomena, making them more frequent and severe. So, with that rather grim backdrop, we've got the Shaanxi Province in China, a region in its heart. A region right in the heart of China, steeped in history and culture, serving as a pivotal area in forming Chinese civilization. Historically, it's known as the cradle of Chinese culture and has been the seat of power for various ancient dynasties, most notably the Qin, the first dynasty to unify China, and the Tang, considered a golden age in Chinese history. The capital of Shaanxi, Xi'an, is famously home to the Terracotta Army, and the region is known for its geographical diversity. On the morning of the 23rd of January, 1556, residents of the Shaanxi province were jolted awake, or we should say, violently thrown awake. This was not simply an earthquake. It was a terrifying seismic shift measuring around 8 to 8.3 on the Richter scale. The results were biblical, almost apocalyptical. One source described great crevices opening in the earth, and another told how walls and buildings crumbled like paper. The tremors were felt in places as far as 500 kilometers away from the epicenter. That's 310 miles. Though the earthquake lasted mere seconds, it caused what many believe to be humanity's deadliest day, killing an estimated 830,000 people, making it the deadliest earthquake and one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in recorded history. The devastation was truly immense. Entire towns and villages were obliterated. In Huaxian, every single structure collapsed, killing half the population. Reports from the period describe the landscape as drastically altering, with rivers changing course or drying up, and even mountains disappearing instantly. More than 97 counties were affected, with a destruction zone measuring 840 kilometers or 520 miles wide. Many of the victims lived in yaodongs, artificial caves dug into soft rock, which were common in the region. These structures, while efficient for living, became death traps during the earthquake, collapsing and burying their inhabitants. Those living in towns, within what would be considered more luxurious surroundings, fared no better. The power of the earthquake knocked down practically everything. It's impossible to say how many died instantly during the earthquake and how many perished in the hours and days that followed. Many were crushed beneath fallen walls, and with such staggering numbers and centuries before mechanical equipment arrived, helping the majority was virtually impossible. Others died after falling into great crevices said to be 60 meters deep, or waterholes that suddenly appeared and at times measured as much as 10 meters in depth. Other major problems were fires and landslides. Some blazes reportedly burned for more than a week, while the city of Puzhou was entirely engulfed, creating a giant inferno on an unimaginable scale. The brutality of the earthquake dramatically changed the surrounding landscape, leading to severe instability that led to countless landslides that only increased the loss of life. If you weren't killed in the initial earthquake, there was a deadly concoction of follow-ups that savaged the area. Survivors faced a dire lack of resources, widespread homelessness, and the spread of diseases. The Ming government, already strained by economic and military pressures, struggled to provide adequate relief. This has long been a major issue with Chinese natural disasters. The size of the country and its population, coupled with the monstrous loss of life, means that any government in power is going to struggle to help all of its people in a meaningful way. This meant that millions of people were practically fending for themselves within an environment that was probably as close to hell as any of them could imagine. The tenacity of the human spirit after such events is extraordinary, especially considering aftershocks occurred 3 to 5 times each month for half a year, with the grounds continuing to spasm sporadically for almost 5 years. The loss of life was dramatic, whether on the 23rd of January or over the coming days and weeks. Shaanxi Province saw a population drop of around 60% because of this earthquake, and it took the better part of a century for the numbers to recover. The Shaanxi earthquake became a significant historical case study in natural disaster management and urban planning. It highlighted the importance of building structures capable of withstanding seismic forces, a lesson that remains relevant in many earthquake-prone regions today. Sources from this period include some of the earliest advice found that told people to stay inside, ideally beneath a doorframe, rather than go outside, which is advice still given out today. In Chinese history and culture, the 1556 earthquake symbolizes the capriciousness of nature and the importance of disaster preparedness. It also serves as a grim reminder of the fragility of human life in the face of natural calamities. The legacy of this tragic day extends beyond the historical and geological analysis. It has become a part of the collective human understanding of our vulnerability to the forces of nature. It underscores the importance of scientific advancements in earthquake prediction and the need for robust, resilient infrastructure to protect communities. Significant steps were taken in China to try and limit the potential loss of life if another such earthquake were to occur, including town planning and disaster instructions that were handed out. But the sad reality is that it's happened again, several times. The 1920 Haiyan earthquake killed 265,000 people, while the 1976 Tangshan earthquake was responsible for more than 300,000 deaths. Even the 2008 Sichuan earthquake claimed nearly 90,000 lives, making it the 18th deadliest of all time. When we're talking about the kind of numbers present in China, often crowded into relatively small spaces, when those tectonic plates shift, it doesn't matter what safeguards are in place. People will die.